Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm back on. Okay. I think I'm going to trim this for when I send it to Spotify. But those of you guys, those of you guys who are in the comments, oh, thank you. I'm going to, I think I'm going to try to I'm going to try to, this is all right. Well, it is what it is. All right. So I'll start from the beginning. Welcome to Blue Collar. Welcome to Blue Collar Breakdown. I'm Tom Eddlem, the Blue Collar Economist. And man, if you suffered in through this 8 minutes of muted video, you're a champ. I'm going to cut that off of the eventual finish. But here's the deal. Trump's tariffs last week have gone down. They've been knocked down by the U.S. Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals here's the case. Here's a photo of the case. Okay, it's VOS selections and a whole bunch of other, like this. There's states are appealing, as well as a number of companies that have been tariffed, and the conclusion of the court by a 9-4 vote was this. It was the only issue we resolve on appeal is whether the trafficking tariffs and reciprocal tariffs imposed by the challenged executive orders, there are 5 Trump executive orders, are authorized by the international trade law, the IEEPA. And they say, we conclude they are not. Okay. Why do they conclude they are not? Well, we have this thing called the Constitution. Article 1, Section 7 says all bills originating revenue shall begin in the House of Representatives. In other words, all taxes begin in the House of Representatives. Why? Because the House of Representatives is the only body in the federal government that is directly elected by the people. The Supreme Court is not. They're appointed by the president and the Senate. The Senate is not. Originally they were appointed by state legislatures. Now they're appointed by elections in the states. But originally they were not. The president is elected by the Electoral College. So they thought, we'll tie this directly to the people and not to the executive branch or to the judicial branch. Taxes must begin with the people. And thus, Article 1, Section 8 says they have the power to raise taxes. But they all, under Article 1, Section 7, they all have to begin with the House of Representatives. So Trump doesn't have the ability to do that. Now, Trump has tried to find what the court says is an elephant in a mouse hole by saying, oh, well, Congress delegated their power to tax to the executive branch. Well, they didn't. They didn't because they can't. Under longstanding federal court law, going back to the 1930s with ALA Schechter Poultry Corporation versus U.S., where they struck down the Roosevelt's New Deal NRA, not the gun company, the gun organization, the National Recovery Administration. It said Congress may not delegate its authority to regulate away to the executive branch, and that the interesting thing is the Trump administration had said that this was a regulation. We're pursuing regulations of international trade. We're not pursuing taxes. Well, whether it's taxes or regulation, Congress cannot delegate it away. It is inherently a part of lawmaking, and Congress not part of the executive branch. That's what that's the essence of what they said. And the interesting thing is the Trump administration appointees on the appellate court. There were 3 of the 11 were Trump appointees. All 3 of them voted with the majority. So Trump can't go on and say, well, it's, these judges are stupid and the people who appointed them are stupid, because all of the ones that Trump appointed agreed with the majority that these are unconstitutional tariffs. And I think that's going to be the case on the U.S. Supreme Court too. When it goes to the Supreme Court, it's going to be, if it's not 9-0, I could see Roberts and Alito being deferring to the imperial presidency somewhat. It might be 7-2. Who knows? Maybe Sheila Jackson Lee will, not Sheila Jackson Lee. Justice Jackson anyway. Justice Jackson going off on some crazy tangent. But I think it's going to be a pretty solid majority saying, no, this is unconstitutional. It's Congress. It's not the it's not the it's not an executive branch policy. Okay, let's talk about these tariffs because they are hurting the economy right now. And you can look at a number of different metrics. First of all, the prices for consumers are going up. So you can see here in this story at I forget what the where I picked it out of, but prices have gone up 15% for coffee. Also, the tariffs to India are going up. So all those pumpkin spice lattes, the pumpkin pie, the pumpkin bread, that's all going to cost you more because cinnamon and nutmeg, which we get from India, are all going to go up in price. Those are Indian spices. That's where we import them from, and it's not just tropical fruits, which we're paying more for. We're paying more for candy because of chocolate. Chocolate is almost always imported. It's a very tropical. Would you call it a fruit? I don't know. But chocolate will cost more, and the steel is largely imported. So as a result, there are a number of job losses. John Deere confirmed a couple hundred layoffs at 3 different plants. Now, if you go to John Deere's website, they say we're committed to investing more in America, blah, 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 blah. But it's tariff related. They didn't say so, but it is because John Deere's global profits and global sales are down as direct result of the tariffs. Okay. And then you go also to Caterpillar. They say it's costing them 1.5 to 1.8 billion more because they have to import steel. Now that the MAGA people would say, oh, okay, well, there's going to be some short-term pain. What we want for the steel manufacturing and the iron ore mining to come back to America. And once that ramps up again, then Caterpillar will be back on its feet and they'll be competitive globally again. Not true. It's not going to happen. For one reason, it's the tariffs are coming down. All right. Not only that, the result of this is that, according to the CNBC, billions and billions of dollars in trade duties are needing to be refunded to businesses. All right. That's what's going to happen. So you'll pay more for coffee at the grocery store. You'll pay more for your chocolate. You'll pay more for your farm machinery. You'll pay more for spices, for your fall baking. You're not getting a refund. The foreign companies that paid the tariffs are getting the refund. That's how it's going to be. Anyway, not good. Not good. In one sense, the worker is going to lose again, and the foreign competitors are going to be subsidized again. At least they're not going to be hurt. They're going to be made whole. The American consumer is not going to be made whole. We're not going to be. Their profits are going to accelerate and at the expense of the American consumer. That's the way it's going to be. Let's see. Oh, the damage I would say is done. The excuse is for the tariffs. The Trump administration sold America on is, or I should not sold, they sealed the courts on is it's an emergency. There's always an emergency. That's the worst excuse government has. And they use it all the time. There was a time back during the Church Committee hearings in the 1970s where Senator Frank Church says, we've been constantly in an emergency since 1933. And that hasn't changed. And the emergencies are the excuses that government uses to expand its power. So Trump used it so that he could have these across the board tariffs. And one of the things I want to go back to this concrete and steel. I don't know if I pointed this out. This tariff fallout leads to layoff at Massachusetts concrete firm. And the main problem with the concrete firm is they can't they can't plan properly for their bids because the steel prices are like this, up and down, up and down. And as a result, what they are facing is they just have to lay people off because they can't, in good conscience, make contracts that they're not sure that they can make a profit on. And so they laid off several hundred people. And it's the same issue with steel as it is with the concrete firm as it is with Caterpillar and John Deere. And what you have is this uncertainty. And if you go back to, Trump he's been talking about tariffs since the 1980s. I've heard congressional testimony about him promoting tariffs. The problem is he didn't, like me, read all of the tariff legislators and their comments in committees and in the congressional record. Back then it was called even before there was congressional record, it was the Congressional Globe, and them talk about tariffs and the importance of them and how to do them and how to do them badly and how to do them well. Because one of the key distinctions that, and I'm not a tariff guy, I oppose tariffs, but one of the key distinctions that the tariff proponents pushed back in the 19th century is the distinction between tariffs on finished goods and tariffs on raw materials. See, if you tariff steel, raw steel, well, that just pushes up the prices of all the people who make finished goods out of steel, like concrete and building manufacturers, like John Deere, like auto manufacturers, like Ford and GM and Tesla and all the rest. So that's what's happened. Trump has just done an across the board tariff as an emergency without really thinking through, gee, this is going to cost all kinds of jobs in the finished goods market, which it already has. Plus, it creates this business uncertainty thing that happened during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, a lot of businesses went out of business or were afraid to invest because they saw Roosevelt create the New Deal. They created all of these rules, even for agriculture. I mentioned the ALA Schechter company, ALA Schechter Poultry Company, suing to get the NRA abolished back in 1935, and the company basically said, we don't want to follow the NRA rules of selling chickens by the lot. You had to sell them in lots of, I think it was, I don't know if it was 50 or 100 or whatever, and they wanted their customers to be able to pick the chickens. But in order to make the price of chicken uniform, all chickens are different sizes. They required all the chickens to be the same price. They have to keep them in a basket. So the government came and said, we have this rule that you have to sell them by the lot. And ALA Schechter Poultry Company said, we want to sell them, let our customers pick the chickens. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said to the Congress, you as I said already, you can't delegate away the authority to regulate from Congress. It has to come right from Congress. So it was struck down. But it creates that kind of, if you have this regulatory regime that rises up and then it's struck down by the courts, and then, which was what Roosevelt did, they created a new regulatory regime. A lot of, and this happened in business as well as agriculture, a lot of people just said, I think I don't want to be involved in this because I don't know what's happening next. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what I'm going to have to pay for taxes. I don't want to deal with all the bureaucracy, and it hurts the business. And that's what's happening on a much lower scale, but it's happening in America today and really around the world as well. So, that's unfortunate for America. And, here's the other thing. The story came out today that Trump's executive order freezing $2 billion in Harvard funding. Now, $2 billion is a pittance compared to what they get. I think they get well over 50 billion. It may be more than 80 billion. It's a lot. All right. Harvard gets a lot of funding. And the Supreme Court not the Supreme Court. This was actually a district court case. It was one judge. So this was lower than the one I just described, which was an appellate court case. But the courts came down and said, no, the president can't just make his own rules. Now, I'm against funding Harvard at all. I think Harvard should not receive $1 of federal funding, nor should any other college. But the law is what it is, and the president can't just all by himself change the law because he doesn't like it. And there was the court found he had no excuse for it, just as he didn't have any excuse in the presidency. So I'm going to cut this short today because one, I went over the material really fast, but also because I forgot to turn my mic on. But next time I'll remember to take my mic on, and we'll fix this. I'll fix this I'll fix this online. All right, guys. For those of you who came back, thank you. For those of you who were here before and left, come back. In the meantime, I want you to listen to my new outro. Yes, I have a new outro, as always, all about taxing, tariffs, and how the president can't take away Congress's power. All right, see you next week.